Hi everybody, welcome back. My name is Sue and I'm a scrap quilter here in Pennsylvania. And today I just want to catch you up on a few things that I've been working on and show my progress on things. I don't have any big finishes this week, although I'm really close. So let's get started. Okay, so project number one, which I've kind of wrapped up on my end of it, is I have 4 quilts here that are going to go to charity. And this one here is the one that I just finished up. I didn't measure them. This one isn't like quite as big as the others. But this one I made to use up some of my really darker squares from the strip sets that I have that I've saved myself in my 2.5-inch strip box. I just had like a pack of dark ones, really dark ones, and I thought I'd try and make something darker for boys, because we tend as quilters to use all the pretty bright colors and the florals and everything, and I think sometimes maybe the boys get left out. So I thought this one would be pretty good for a boy. So I had this kind of top put together. I started off just by making 4 patches, and then I just joined 4 of those 4 patches together to make a 16 patch block. So extremely simple, you know, very easy and quick. And then for the border on this one, this was, it kind of sat for a while because I wasn't sure what to do with it. And then my daughter suggested that I use these, my white squares, where I put all of my smallest white scraps. I sew them onto newspaper diagonally. And I thought that is a good idea. And it does really look nice now when it's all done. I think I used 40 of these white squares out of my box. And I did, because this is all in the bias, the outside edge here, I did go on my machine and I put like a larger basting stitch all around the outside. I'm not sure if, now this is going to a quilt guild that my sister belongs to, so I'm not sure if they want to make this bigger, if they want to put like another bigger border on it or not. They could just finish it as is. If it were up to me, and I will talk to her about it, I would put something around the outside of this yet, just because these are all bias edges here on the outside. So that one is going to go. I have 4 of them here. I'm not going to send these to her probably for another month, because her quilt guild is getting ready to put on their show. They have a show at the end of February, and everybody is extremely busy right now getting ready for the show. They have all the quilts coming in, they're organizing everything and documenting everything, and, you know, getting ready to set up. So I don't want to overwhelm anybody by sending these down. So I'll wait until after their show is over. And then here's another one. This is like quilt number 2 that will go. This is also a Carolina chain, but I started with 2.5-inch strips with this. And I did originally put this together with the intent of making this a charity quilt. And I don't have a border on this one at all. Not yet. I mean, she said that they have like bins and bins of donated fabric, and that she'll find something that matches just to put a quick border on the outside of it. So that's number 2. Number 3 is this one. That was a double Irish chain made out of all these little squares finish at 1 inch. So they started as 1.5. This is the one I kind of had high hopes for, and it just didn't turn out to my liking. So This one will go to charity too. And I'm sure once it's quilted, it'll be beautiful and somebody will love it. Just because I myself don't especially care for it, you know, doesn't mean somebody else won't. You know, I'm sure this will find a good home. So that's number 3. And then number 4 is this one. I was also cleaning out some strips out of my my 2.5-inch strip box to try and just kind of keep things manageable and under control. So this one I did make a full-size quilt for myself with this same pattern. And I ended up with some of these strip sets left over. And so I put them in my 2.5-inch strip box. And when I opened it up, I saw that I still had some of these strip sets. And so I thought, well, I may as well just go ahead and make another quilt because that's what I do. Okay, so that's it for the charity quilts. Okay, next on my list of things that I've been working on slowly here and there. It's kind of, you know, what I call on the back burner. I don't sit down and sew for hours and hours on end, but it's this Scrappy Trip Around the World block here with the diagonal red. Right now, let's see, this is how many I have right now. There are 38 blocks here right now, and they finish at 12 inches each. And so I need 11 more. I'm going for 49, so that it will be 7 blocks across by 7 down. And then I'll just put a simple border on it, and that'll be a good size quilt. So this too, I was asked in the comment section about making this the way that Bonnie Hunter makes hers, where she sews 6 strips together and then she sews it into a tube and then cuts 2.5 inches wide, and then she unpicks the seam, every other seam, you know, to open it up, and then you lay it out to get this. And I have done that before, and here's a quilt right behind me. This is how I made that one, by using Bonnie Hunter's method. This one I did not do that way because I have a drawer in my sewing machine where every time I get individual squares, I put them in that drawer. And that drawer was getting very full. It still is very full. It's just that right now there are no reds in there anymore. There are no yellows in there anymore. There's still some blues, some whites, but I needed to make a dent in that drawer. So that's why for this quilt, I am literally sewing each individual square together. I'm not doing the strip set. So for those of you who were wondering, yes, her method is super easy. It goes super fast, and I really like it. I have put together quilts like that when, you know, like my 2.5-inch strip box gets really full. That's a really good way to use up a lot of strips really fast. But it just didn't work out for, you know, for this, because I was starting with 2.5-inch squares to begin with in order to clean out that area. So like I said, I have 11 more to make, and then I can start joining these together. Okay, next on my list of things I've been working on, kind of, you know, just sporadically here and there, is my little plus blocks. These only finish at 3 inches. So I start with 1.5 inch. In this case, some of them are strips and some of them are individual squares. It just kind of depends how I've already processed my scraps. So these are 1.5 inches here. This would be 1.5 by 3.5, and the whole thing will finish at 3 inches. So I've made some more of these, and I have some more grouped together so that, you know, when I just want to come up here and do some quick sewing, I already have everything kind of grouped and they're ready to go. Right now, and I group them in groups of 10, and I put a clip on so that I don't have to keep counting each individual one. And it gives me a good idea of how many I have. I don't know how many I'm going to need. I'm really not sure. I'm guessing I have about 145. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I think once I get to that, maybe I'll start laying them out to see, because every other block in this quilt is just going to be just a plain square. I think I want to use something that looks a little more vintage or antique, so I'm thinking something along the lines of like a darker kind of muslin. But I haven't made that decision yet. I haven't gone through my fabric to pick anything out specifically, but it's not going to be a white. I know that. And I also know I want to set this on point. So, but things may change. I don't know. So right now I have these grouped in 10. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And here I think I have 5. So I have 75 of these blocks made for now. So I have about half of what I think I might need. And once I get to the point where I have enough where I think I might need, I might start to kind of lay them out and see how close I am to getting to the right number. But for now, I know I'm not really that close to it. So I'm just going to keep making these for now. So this is another one I've been kind of working on behind the scenes that I'm not in any hurry to finish. Just kind of as I find the scraps as they appear, they go in this box and I'll work on them. Okay, next on my list of things I've been working on is this. If you watch regularly, you'll see this one was hanging behind me in the last episode. This is a hunter star pattern, and I found the pattern online. The website that I found it on is called Moonkin Stitchery, and she started with 10-inch squares from a layer cake. And so I had a layer cake that was given to me that had no label on it or anything whatsoever. This is tied up like with a piece of binding. And again, like for me, one layer cake isn't enough to make a quilt. So this has been sitting here for ages and ages and ages, and I really like the fabrics in it, but it just sits because I don't know how to, I just don't know how to use it. And so now that I've split it up into making this, now I have even less of this. So I don't know. The fabric will find a home. I just don't know for what. So, okay. So anyway, back to the Hunter Star. So I used her pattern starting with the 10-inch squares, and I really liked it. It was super easy to do. The only thing that I would say about this is if you are a brand new quilter or relatively new quilter, I probably would make sure you got a couple of more quilts under your belt before you try something like this, because the way that it's sewn together, everything you're sewing on the bias, all of your seams are sewn on the bias, and it's very easy to get things stretched out of shape when you do that. This worked out pretty well for me. I didn't have much trouble. So, but again, I can see if you're a beginner where it might be a little frustrating. So this one too, I made, okay, so here's the deal. I live in a really old house. It's a brick house. I don't know when it was built, but it's been here for quite a while. And back in the old days, they didn't put insulation in houses. So for the area of the country that I live in, it gets too cold to have a house with no insulation. So I can feel cold air coming in through my walls in the winter. So I actually made this. It's going to be pretty long. You know, it's here too. So there's 4 big blocks, that finish at 16 inches each, and then it has a border around it. And so I made this to fit a very specific place in my room, between where the window ends and then the edge of the wall. It's just going to go in that tiny space there, and it's going to act as insulation. And especially on the back end of my house, that is the coldest side. So this is going to give me a little bit more insulation back there. So that's the purpose of this one. And this one will probably be next on my list to quilt, because I want to get it done and get it hung up so it can serve its purpose for the rest of this winter. So there's my hunter star. Okay, and speaking of hunter star, I was trying to decide what my next big quilt was that I kind of wanted to make. And I did want to make a hunter star, and that's part of the reason why I made the smaller project first, is because I thought if there's any parts in that progress of making that, I kind of wanted to know where the pitfalls, might be for me, so that when I go to make my big quilt, I'm aware of those and I know what to look for. So I did start with 10-inch squares again. I cut my own, and for this one I'm using reds and blacks from men's shirts. So I cut my own 10-inch squares, and I'm putting a white with it. Last year I made a quilt with black and red men's shirts, and it turned out to be one of my favorite quilts from the year. I really liked it a lot. So that's kind of why I'm going with this again. I really like how they look together. So I actually just started yesterday with cutting out some of my pieces, and I finished this morning sewing some of them together. So these are not squared up or anything yet. So they might look a little wonky because I did just finish, putting them together and pressing them. So this will be my next quilt with reds and blacks. So I don't have that many blacks made yet, but that's just where I am for now. So I just started this one. And while I had all of my shirts out, I end up, because when you cut shirts are just, it's not normal sort of rectangles or anything. There's all these weird shapes. And so after I get my 10-inch squares, I have all these pieces left over that are, here's at the cuff, the button at your wrist here. Not big enough for 10-inch squares anymore. So I have all these from all my cutting, and I kind of, like right now anyway, in my head, I'm thinking, I kind of don't want these smaller little pieces just all thrown back into a box. So I'm trying to think of what kind of quilt block I can make with these, as long as I have them out and they're on my table. And I haven't really thought of anything yet, but I'm going to leave them out so that it's kind of in the front of my mind. And it might be something simple like just hourglass blocks and or churn dash. I don't know. I haven't come up with anything yet, but that's kind of why I just still have a pile here. I'm just going to leave it out. Now some of the smaller strips like this I may end up cutting into, maybe like a 1.5-inch strip, and some of these will no doubt end up in my little plus quilt, because they're just, too small to use for anything else. But I'll start with the bigger pieces first and see what I come up with, and we'll go from there. And then I'm also using the same 10-inch square method that I used for the other quilt. And I do have this Rapid Fire Hunter Star, and this is from Deb Tucker. And you can see it still has the paper on the back. This is brand new. I bought this at a fabric sale. I think I only paid $2 for it. It was something crazy cheap. And I've seen in the comment section that some people have used this and they've really liked it. And I did watch her video, and I think I want to give it a try. And what I like about this more than this method here is that I have the option to do different sizes on here. Where this one, she just gives you cutting instructions just for a 10-inch square, so you don't have an option to do, you know, this will end up as a finished 8-inch block. I'll trim it down to 8.5, but she just doesn't have any other options for any other sizes, where this one does. But for some reason right now, I'm just, I don't know, I guess maybe I'm lazy. I kind of just don't want to go through all these directions right now. And because I had already done a sample of this and it was so easy, I just took the easy way out. So I'm doing it like that. I will use this at some point, just not for this quilt. And this kind of quilt too, I think would look really good scrappy. So I might use this more for, you know, make smaller blocks where I have something a little bit smaller to start off with. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, and this is the last thing that I'm currently working on, but it's a big one. This is my Carolina chain quilt. I have the whole body of this hand quilted. I have this border hand quilted, and I have 3 of these borders quilted. So literally I just have one more side of the border to hand quilt, and then this one will be done. So I almost had a new finish for you this week, but not quite. And so the body of it, I just did a crosshatch design again, but it just took more to do because these blocks were smaller to begin with. So the quilting is now closer together. So it just takes more. It's easy to do though, but yeah, there's a lot of quilting on it. And the border here, I don't know how well you can see, I'm doing something a little bit swirly on the border because, again, remember, if you use a solid color like this, your quilting is really going to show because you don't have the busyness of all the colors of your fabric that's going to distract from it. So with a border like this, I thought I could do something a little bit more fancy on it. And so I just used one of the stencils that I have and one of my blue marking pens. So I'm almost done with this. And I'll give you a much closer look the next video when this is finished on the quilting. And then just a quick sneak peek on the back of it is I went with purples on the back. Just a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So this is kind of pieced on the back also. So this is almost done. Okay, that's what I'm working on this week. So I'm gonna wrap it up because I've got work to do. I've got lots of sewing to do, and I hope you do too. I hope everybody's staying warm out there, and I'll see you next time. Bye.